Good morning, everybody. This is Tammy Bennett. I'm a doctor of Oriental medicine, and my show is called A Modern Healer's Journey. And I'm looking out at a skyline today in Orlando, Florida. It's beautiful and sunny, and the sky is clear. And I'm happy to have an old friend, Eusebio Coterillo, here with me on the show. He is an old friend, probably one of my earliest clients back in the old days when I started my practice 20 some odd years ago. And tell everybody how we met, Eusebio. It's a good story. You tell it better than I do.
Well, I had just recently moved into the area, and unbeknown to me, I was very allergic to pine trees, and I moved into Winter Park, which contains an ocean of pine trees. So no matter where I went, I was encountering pine trees. There was no relief, and I was having really, really severe asthma attacks. And I had gone to numerous doctors, and finally a friend of mine suggested that I try acupuncture, and a very specific form of acupuncture. And I looked up that form and the practitioners thereof in the Central Florida area. And the list came up with a physician first, and then Tammy. I called the physician, still not understanding about acupuncture, and they said they could see me in about 10 weeks. And I thought that was ridiculous. I needed help now. 10 weeks was not going to cut it. So I went to the next one on the list, and it was Providence, because I ended up with Tammy, and she absolutely, literally saved my life. And I've been friends with her and a patient ever since.
So you sound like a really good commercial, but it's actually all true. It really did happen.
Absolutely.
A non-paid, I was going to say documentary, but that's not the right, a non-paid commercial for what I do, but
an infomercial, yeah.
Exactly. So over the years, I know that you've had some health challenges, and what we talk about here is what's going on with people's health, both actually three things: spiritually, physically, and emotionally. And we want people to share in an open forum on this channel about health and wellness issues. And I know you've overcome some challenges, and you actually started a company called Amnion with regards to basically anti-aging. But can you elaborate a little bit about Amnion and what it's meant for you?
Well, Amnion became an integral part of my life through no fault of mine. I became the poster child, if you will, for Amnion. About 3 years ago, I was involved in a head-on collision with a drunk driver, and she crossed over, hit me head-on, and I found myself with a horrific scar on my forehead, 37 stitches. I was partially scalped. The skin was peeled back to here, and it was not pretty. In fact, my friends were calling me Frank. And the first time they did so, I didn't quite get it. And so I looked innocently and said, well, you know my name's not Frank, which only caused them to burst out laughing that much harder because it went right over my head. But I knew that I needed to do something about the scar, and utilized Amnion. And as you can see today, I don't have this horrific 37-stitch scar in the front of my head or forehead.
Yeah. So what led you to be interested in, so let me go back. Amnion is the undifferentiated cells from human placental tissue.
Yes.
And explain for those out there that might be a little squeamish about that idea, where it actually comes from, because people are going to start saying, you know, are these aborted fetuses and things like that, and that comes up a lot when we talk about non-differentiated placental tissue.
So essentially, we work with a hospital, and women that are pregnant apply to get into the program. And we're not allowed to pay them because of the FDA regulations, but we can provide prenatal care and obstetrics, which is basically delivery. In exchange for top flight care, they donate the placental tissue and the amniotic fluid at birth. So the baby isn't harmed. Baby goes to the baby section, and dad's handing out cigars and pointing to the child, and mom is perfectly fine. But we get to capture the placental tissue and the amniotic fluid, which is chock full of all kinds of very interesting cells, cytokines, interleukins, prostaglandins, everything the body needs to regrow tissue. And very importantly, these cells are immune privileged, which means you don't have to worry that you have to have a perfect match. The body isn't going to reject it. And these are a primary source of pluripotent cells. These are often considered master cells, and they're actually able to make cells so that they can potentially produce any cell or tissue the body needs to repair itself. And this master property is called pluripotency. By regrowing these nascent cells, the injury can heal without the formation of the dreaded scar tissue. Hence, I have no scar tissue on my forehead.
Gotcha.
And yeah.
I was going to ask, so I know you don't have a science background. I know you have a business and technology background. Was it the technology that attracted you initially?
What attracted me initially was that, the fact that this is cutting edge stuff and has, more important, produced remarkable results that are documented. And I was drawn to that, of course, being a tech guy and a gadget guy and all of that. So that appealed to me greatly.
So with that being said, you had your own experience. You started a company that basically harvested this, the human amnion tissue, and I believe it comes frozen. Is that still true? That
yes.
Everything is cryo frozen, right?
Correct. So the process is the tissue is taken to the lab. All the RBCs are removed, which is the red blood cells. We triple filter, and then we convert that into an injectable liquid that has millions and millions of cells in it. That then is put into a vial, which is then cryogenically frozen to a minimum of 80 degrees below zero, if not more, and stored until it's shipped. Our offices have a cryogenic freezer, so we order ahead of time and have product on hand. When we go to inject, we take that out previously to let it give it an opportunity to thaw out, and then it is injected into the patient.
Okay. And my understanding is a lot of this started out in orthopedic, right? Orthopedic and wound care. That was the two directions that this type of treatment would go for. Like if somebody had, let's say, for example, a diabetic wound, they could use that for diabetic wounds and also for orthopedic injuries like frozen shoulders or arthritic knees. Is that where it all started?
Yeah, essentially it goes back many, many years, and it started with people that had, horrific burns or skin issues, wounds, ulcerative wounds that weren't healing and just only got worse. And it was applied as a patch, if you will, over the afflicted area. And the results were tremendous. In fact, for many years, the burn unit was right next to the delivery unit in the hospital. So they would take the placenta and immediately, cleanse it, do what they need to do, and apply it right to the burn area. And the results were tremendous. Over time, people started to say, well, if it does really well for this, maybe we can use it in a surgical environment. And doctors started taking this tissue, and for example, if you have a ligament damage, once the ligament was attached, they would wrap this tissue, a thin layer of it, around that area and then sew up the knee. And they found that the repair was more permanent because there's no scar tissue there, which creates the weak link in the chain. And people weren't having a recurrence as a result.
So this was in surgery, right? This was during a surgical procedure. They were doing this process with this amnion tissue in the surgery itself, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And then outside of that, so burns initially, inside surgical procedure next, and then came the putting it into a liquid form that could be injected, right?
Correct. That was the more recent iteration of it.
Okay.
And it's been just tremendous for so many people.
So tell me about the types of people that come to your office that want help.
If I'm a normal person who needs to use human amnion tissue, also known as amnion, what can I use it for?
So we use it in two key overarching areas. One is in joint repair, and the other is in aesthetics. And we have nurse practitioners that focus on either of these disciplines. In the joint repair, plantar fasciitis, issues with ankles, knees, hips, shoulders, elbows, that kind of thing. And then on the aesthetic side, we also do microneedling and some other things with it.
It is my understanding that from a sports medicine and soft tissue injury perspective, that human amnion tissue is outstanding for healing injuries like tears and micro tears pretty quickly. I heard Joe Rogan talk about it on his podcast many times, where mixed martial arts fighters and other athletes get good results with ACL, MCL, shoulder tears, etc. But what about full tears or really bad injuries? Can you speak to that?
Yes, of course. So in the case of a partial tear or micro tears where you get on your shoulder, we're really, really good at attacking that and resolving the issue. In the case of a full tear, unfortunately, amnion isn't going to make two ends of a rubber band that have snapped back away from each other magically come forward and join hands. So you will have to, in that case, obviously have it surgically reattached because you've got to pull each side towards the middle and then attach. However, what we can do, which has shown tremendous results, is after the surgery, you can be treated, and that avoids the adhesions and the scar tissue. So what happens is, you see often in professional athletes, they have an ACL tear. These are individuals that are in peak world-class form. They have the best medical attention. They have the best physicians and surgeons. And yet a year later, they go out, and in the case of a football player, he just plants his knee to make a cut, and he blows out the knee again. And the reason for that is because that surgery created scar tissue. And instead of forming a bond like this, it's a bond like this. And then that's easier to tear apart. And we help by avoiding that scar tissue and those adhesions that weaken that joint and become the weak link in the chain.
I know a lot of women and also some men who have used PRP, which is also known as platelet-rich plasma, or the vampire facial for anti-aging. It's my understanding from your website that human amnion tissue can be used for anti-aging purposes, for scar reduction, and skin rejuvenation. I know viewers may have a strong interest in that. I wondered if you could share some information about that with me and tell me about your experience. Can you share some of your successes with that type of skin rejuvenation?
So I am, as I mentioned earlier, the poster child for this. And I don't know if you can possibly see. I'm going to try and put my phone up to the screen. All right, let me pull up this photo of me. Can you see that photo? there is a horrific scar on my forehead that I don't have today. That was caused by, I had a convertible, and that convertible has a reinforcing bar along the leading edge of the top, which I hit, and then it snapped my head back and it peeled my skin all the way back. So I was able to treat myself with Amnion, and as you can see, the scar is no longer there. I'll put the photo up one more time so people can see that it was pretty bad. And now I am, normal.
Whatever normal is, right? When did that happen?
The original injury was in April, the end of April of 19. I treated myself. I spent a significant amount of time in the hospital. Once I came out of the hospital, 6 weeks later, I decided to treat myself, and about 90 days later, I looked like this.
Oh, that looks great.
Yeah. I mean, I heal well anyway, but this was way beyond. That scar was like, there was no way I was going to be able to just naturally heal myself out of it.
You've got alien healing powers, don't you?
Yes.
What's in the future of Amnion of Florida? What's exciting these days?
Well, there's certain things that we're doing. We're now exploring hair restoration. We're finding that many women now are suffering from alopecia, and you can see thinning hair. It's, maybe you'd see once in a blue moon, you'd see someone. Now you're seeing women more and more often with thinning hair or falling out hair. Obviously, the male side, that's been well documented for centuries, of course. And so we're starting to get into that area and do some very interesting things with that. And so, and then, of course, on the aesthetic side, we're getting into other things, décolleté, necks, and other things that people are starting to explore and have some tremendous results with.
Do you use anesthetic and numbing cream to help people with the discomfort?
They are. We do what's known as a ring block. So we do a ring around the crown for an anesthetic purpose, right? That deadens everything. And then we combine it with PRP. And
for those who don't know what PRP is, it's platelet-rich plasma. We talked about it a few minutes ago, but I wanted to reiterate that.
Correct. So the PRP does two key things for us. One, the PRP acts as a natural activator for the amnion rather than having to use a chemical activator. We're very, very much into all natural solutions, and that obviously dovetails nicely into that. And the other is that it gives us more volume to be able to inject into the area for even better results. But the rock star is still the amnion, of course, but we combine it with the PRP, and it just enhances the results dramatically.
How many treatments for hair growth are needed?
Typically, it takes 2 to 3 treatments, and they're spaced about 6 to 8 weeks apart.
How has your company handled the pricing structure? I know in the past, your Amnion services were somewhere in the price range of $1,000 to $2,000. Has the supply chain issue affected you? Did the pandemic cause any issues with materials or how you price everything?
Well, today with all the issues in availability and because of the delivery mechanisms and things that are happening. So everything's become much more expensive. But
So I assume the supply chain has been an issue.
Everybody's a victim of supply chain. But it's unfortunate. And so what's happened is the prices have gone up, but we've managed to maintain things very, very aggressively priced. And as a result, patients are not hit with sticker shock.
As with everything, things get better with technology and prices come down. I wondered if you're able to share any price reductions with your clients and what that looks like to them.
Actually, we've managed to lower the price a bit, not significantly, but about 10%.
So just for a quick recap, Amnion tissue is first originally was working for people that had burns, and they were seeing good results with that. So the aesthetics was sort of a continuation of that. Then soft tissue healing, then joint healing, and now hair restoration, which is, I would say, probably super popular. Most people that need that kind of thing only have a few limited options. So if you like what you heard today, you want to hear more, learn more, like and subscribe to my channel. I'm on YouTube and Rumble. And Eusebio, tell us about where people can reach you as far as your website is concerned, if they want to learn more about your company here in Florida.
Yes, our website is amnion.us. Amnion is spelled A-M as in Mary, N as in Nancy, I-O-N as in Nancy. And we're available there. We've got videos, we've got testimonials, we've got a ton of information and data, including clinical trials, and feel free to explore and check out all the stuff on there.
And if you'll get some stuff to my producer, we'll put some before and after photos up for you as well on our site so that people can see what we were talking about. And I really appreciate your time. Thank you. Have a really wonderful day.